All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Jennifer Moore. I'm the head of data services in the university libraries, and I'm here to welcome you to Love Data Week, which is an international event to support all things and raise awareness for all things data. This Love Data Week at WashU is brought to you by the Washington University Libraries, the Becker Medical Library, and the Institute for Informatics. Um, we've had a number of events this week, and including qualitative coding and Atlas TI, introduction to Social Explorer, introduction to lab archives for researchers, basic data analysis using Python. And those things have already happened, but we're recording everything. So if you're interested in any of those, please let us know and we will get you connected with those links. Today we will have an introduction to Bloomberg, which is what you're doing right now, and an introduction to the Federal Reserve and Fred. And as well as this afternoon, we'll have an introduction to Tableau. Tomorrow, we will have an MD clone presentation. And on Friday, visualization of COVID data using R, and our keynote will be from the NIH, a presentation of their data management and sharing approaches, a lion in the path. So data services at the libraries, data and computing services at Becker, and the Institute for Informatics links are all here. Please feel free to look us up and see what we do. And we're very happy to have you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Audrey.
Audrey?
Yes, hold on. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Audrey, looks good.
Okay, good. So welcome to Love Data Week at WashU. This presentation is about Bloomberg and data. It's being presented by myself, Audrey McQuillan. I'm the Kopolow business librarian, and Madjid Zeggan, who is the data analyst in the library. What we will be covering today are logistics in the Kopolow Business Library staff and services. I'll be talking about Bloomberg, its top uses, data screen examples. I'll be also talking about BMC certification, and then we'll have questions. We'll hold those to the end. So the Kopolow Business Library is located in Simon Hall on the second floor. It features 9 group study rooms, a financial lab, and an instruction room on the mezzanine level. Even though the library is closed physically, it is staffed Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. In the library, we have Ellen Riney. She's the library associate there. She can do catalog searching, reserves, ILL, citation services, article searching for you. And Madjid is also in the library where we do specialized classes, database training, and research. And I'm located in Chicago doing the same. So Bloomberg at WashU. At WashU, we have 12 Bloomberg station locations. 8 are in the financial lab. 1 is near the front desk of the library for quick searches. 1 is located in Bauer Hall in the graduate lounge. And there are 2 Bloomberg laptops available to Olin faculty to access in the classroom. Prior to the pandemic, you had to come into the library to use Bloomberg. However, we've made arrangements to use it remotely. So if you have questions on accessing Bloomberg, contact Madjid. We also do training on Bloomberg. So the KBL hosts Bloomberg training sessions in the fall and spring semesters for students. We can do individual class sessions. Bloomberg reps are available for demonstrations. Note that Bloomberg is available in 11 languages. The Bloomberg database guides are listed on the Bloomberg lab page. And I'll be talking more about Bloomberg market concept certification at the end of the presentation today. So about Bloomberg, Bloomberg was launched in 1981. It brought transparency to the financial markets. It sits on the desks of approximately 325,000 financial professionals. It's recognized as a global icon of financial markets. Coverage includes markets, tools and charting, trading solution, news. There are more than 170,000 sources published daily, which averages 17 stories per second. That's how fast it is. And it also features research. So what kind of data formats does Bloomberg have? It features text, so we've got news articles, data that can be downloaded into spreadsheets, graphs, audio, for example, you can hear earnings calls, video and maps. And you'll see all of this in the presentation. So some of the top uses of Bloomberg include real-time market data and news coverage from around the world, current and historical stock prices from global and local exchanges, current public company financials, comprehensive equity, technical charting and backtesting, US and global economic indicators and forecasts, public company supply chains and key customers. You can also use it as a people finder for contacts and networking. You can do job searches, job lists, and resumes, and there's much more. This is only the tip of the iceberg. So if you were to log on to Bloomberg, the top snapshot here is for the Bloomberg Terminal located in the library. And you'll see here, you log in and password, and then here are the 11 languages that Bloomberg is available in. This bottom snapshot features the remote function Bloomberg Anywhere. So during the pandemic, this is how we're accessing Bloomberg. Okay, the next bunch of screens, Madjid will be talking more about some of the functionality of Bloomberg.
Okay. In this area, I will be showing, you'll see a lot of graphs, a lot of data. That is not even close to 1% of Bloomberg, just to show you how much amount of data Bloomberg generates on a daily basis, even on hourly basis. So I will cover a few things that relates to the current news on, like there is specific company right now that is in the news. I just picked it up as an example, which is GameStop. I will talk about few new functions that are very interesting. And I will also talk about the very popular functions and a specific event that is consuming our life right now, which is COVID-19. In the first screen, you can see that it's a description of a company. By the way, this thing can be used for any company. It can also be used for commodities, currency, fixed income, treasuries, derivatives, options. So by using this function, it's probably, to me, this function, DES, with the screening are two of the best probably functions you can find in Bloomberg. So anyway, on the first screen, you can see, for example, in the description, what GameStop is, what is the definition, what it stands for, what it provides. And it gives you on the lower level section, it will give you the market cap, the float of stocks, and the short interest that we're going to come back a little bit later. It gives you the estimate, which basically is the fundamental analysis of the company, the dividends. It gives you the corporation information, and it gives you the management. In the management, you can get, for example, the CEO, the member of the board, the executive members, stuff like that. And you can get as much information as you want if you open that stuff. On the second screen, we're discussing a daily quote, which a daily quote you can see on your left, typically what's moving at every millisecond of the quotes. In the middle, you'll see two graphs, which one is historical, the other one is daily. And the lower section, you'll see like what you call peer people, like the companies that competes with GameStop, which are like same industry. Underneath it, you'll see news information on the GameStop or its relative industry. So, but each one of those windows, each one of those screens, you can click on them, you can open them, and they become a primary screen if you want to just concentrate on them. Go to the next Audrey. On this screen, it shows you the ownership of the company. On the top side, it's going to show you, for example, the institutional investors who own this company. On the next level, it says the insiders, which are people that works in the company itself that own this stock. And on the right side, you'll see what geographical ownership of this company. And if you can see just underneath, you see United States has the highest number of ownership of this company. One thing that is probably important here to know is that the insiders, you need to look at the inside, click on a, like here you cannot click because it's static, but when you are on Bloomberg, you click on the insiders, it's gonna give you the historical movement of the insiders. If the insiders are increasing, like for example, their ownership, like buying more stock than they already owned, then it's a good sign to like keep the stock or even buy more. But if the ownership is selling something, maybe is cooking inside, so you might need to sell. If the ownership do not want to keep the stock, why should you keep it? They know more about the company than you know. So it's an insight to tell you maybe it's a good time to get rid of the stock. On the lower section, it's giving you the analyst recommendation. This is critical specifically in this case because the GameStop is like in the news lately. In August, this company was trading at $4 only at best. And right now, like the last few weeks, don't go there yet, it's going through like into $500. It's ridiculous, the numbers. Just like the day we generated this graph, you can see that the price of the stock was trading at $254 on top of the red one. The average, the last price, which is 244. But anyway, the average estimate of the analyst is no more than $13.44. How is this is going from like an estimated number for the next 12 months of $13 went all the way to $500, which means there is some form of manipulation going around this stock that we're gonna see on the next screens. On these screens, you can see one, the news, like, because there is what you call short interest. A short interest we're gonna see a little bit later that is already a little bit mentioned in the DES is picking up, as you can see on the 21st of January, these companies start picking up a momentum in the news, like in the social media and the current and the news of the company, and it's just taking off like crazy. And the stock itself following the news, of course. And if you compare in that graph, I draw like the stock itself, the news and the social media stories generated on every day and compare them to Tesla, Amazon, and Apple. Three of them combined do not even come close to the amount of news and stories generated by GameStop because of the movement of the stock. Underneath it, it measures it, giving you the stock value itself, the appreciation of the stock, and the news itself, how the news, the measurement of the news. Bloomberg here uses artificial intelligence to measure each article or each story, whether the story is positive or negative. Is it pro GameStop or it is against GameStop? So as you can see, there was only in the green section squares or rectangulars on the right side, you can see only one day is higher than the red squares, which is the red is negative news and the green section is the positive news. As you can see, the more the news goes up, the more it generates a stock movement. In fact, on the 29th, the 28th, this stock reached almost 500. To be exact, it's $483. And from there, it started going down. You're gonna say, why this thing happening? Because there is what they call, there was a higher short interest, which means there are a lot of people who are shorting the stock. Because they think there is so much negative on the stock that is not really capable of producing the whatever the product they are promising. They think the revenue gonna go down, and so then they start shorting it. And the more they short, the more than the people, like the people who short really at what they call in Wall Street the smart money, the institution, the hedge funds, the big heads like that are like shorting this stock. But the small people, what we call the Main Street or the retail investor or the average Joe, decided to, what the heck, let's buy this stock and stick it to the rich. And so they start buying, going long, and they start squeezing the rich. But unfortunately, the story doesn't end well when you're going against the bigger people than you, because they have more ammunition to throw at the stock, so they can, like, even if they lose $1 or $2 billion, as long as they stick there, at the end they will gonna win the game, because the house always wins, as they say. And in this side, in this case, that's exactly what happened. And today I'm looking at this moment, the stock is trading at $52. So it tells you it went from within a week or 10 days from $483 to all the way to $50 at this very second. You go to the next screen, Audrey. On this is to give you how you can, for example, if you are a researcher or you are an investor, you are interested in stories similar to the GameStop, how to find these stocks that have a very high short interest, that are susceptible for big people to short it. But in the meantime, when there is a squeeze, the stocks takes off. It's like a stampede. So in this case, what we decided, we look at the globe. We are screening for companies around in here, around, in fact, the only United States that have a short interest of at least 30%, which means 30% of the float. A float is the amount of stock available for trading. So some of the part of the stock is owned by the owners, and that is not part of the float. The float is the number of stock available in the market to trade. So this short interest, because short interest have only to buy in the market, so only the stock available to them they can short. They cannot short something that is not available. So we're looking for short interest of at least 30% or higher. I'm gonna put one thing here to just give you an example. The S&P 500 companies altogether, among them, they have a short interest of less than 4%. So it just gives you like a value to compare the two, that this short interest of 30% is exceptionally high. And we also added another element that is not mentioned on that screen. It's the option availability. For example, a person who doesn't have a lot of money, like an average Joe like us, we want to like take advantage of this movement. So you don't want to short the stock, because if you don't have a lot of money, because if you short it, the losses are unlimited. If the stock continues to go up, and your losses continue to go higher. So to play this game is to buy an option. If you buy an option, you lose only the value of the bet you're putting on the stock. So I can control, for example, 100 shares of GameStop within, maybe if I buy my option within the money or outside the money. If I can pay $1,000, I can control $50,000. If, like, for example, the stock is trading at 500. And so that's why the option interest or option availability plays a game here. So when we run this screening, we end up with the companies that are underneath there. You can see on the second screen, and you can see all the stock that follow similar behavior as the GameStop. You can see easily there the GameStop has the higher like interest, which is the short interest of almost of 123% of the float. You can see Dillard, you can see Bath and Beyond, you can see AMC Entertainment. They all have numbers are horrendous that are like within 60% to all those numbers are very, very high. Anything above 30% already, it's too high. Go to the next screen, Audrey. On this is just to show you how to pull those companies, the list of the companies to the 42 companies we just saw into an Excel. This Excel file is called static. So it can give, you can play with it, you can change it. But if you build this Excel file, for example, if you picked up the companies that listed and you opened an Excel spreadsheet by itself and drop there and build it, then it becomes dynamic. So if like in 2 months or 2 years or 10 years, you want to come back, bring your file from the Excel file, you plug it in into your Excel with the Bloomberg open, you hit enter, all the data will be updated automatically by itself. So which means all the numbers you see on that file are become dynamic. They can be activated, updated right away. But if it's static, it cannot be updated. It will stay as is, or you run the screen we just ran earlier, and you run it again, you come up with the different numbers, and then you put them into an Excel file again. Go ahead, and Audrey. On this thing is one interesting thing about World Equity Index Monitor. This can be run not only for the equities, you can run it for example, currencies, you can run it for commodities, you can run it almost for a different, like I would say even, for example, the bonds, stuff like that. So in here, if we have only the first section of the screen, because you can, like if you were on a Bloomberg, you can scroll down, there are all the globe indices. You can select any one of them from any country you want, and you can analyze it. In this case, we just picked up the S&P 500 from the United States, and we clicked on it, and so you can see the result at the bottom of that the second screen. That is the pie of all the industries related to S&P 500. You can see there are a list, and even the companies. If you have like a Bloomberg thing, you can click on any industry. It's gonna give you all the members or the companies that are included in that industry. Go to the next level. On this one, it's gonna give you, if you are like a trader or even a researcher, it depends what is your objective. If, for example, you are a trader, I would say you need to look at this to see when you should enter or maybe should exit the market. Because as you can see 4 quadrants in the first screen. In there, it's gonna give you like lagging companies or industries. It's gonna give you the improving industries on the second one, second left. On the middle one, it's gonna give you the like the leading industries, and the lower one, it is giving you the weakening. The interesting thing here you need to look at is the movement of the arrows. If the arrows are moving upward in the right direction, you'll see a green like line with green arrows moving in the right direction to the leading quadrant. But if it's going back, if, for example, you are in, let's suppose, in the improving quadrant, you are hoping to move into the leading quadrant, but unfortunately, sometimes for policy reasons, for industry events, for accidents, for whatever unpredictable events, it reverses course, it goes lower. And that, if it does that, it's time to get out and like limit your losses. So on the lower section or lower screen, it's giving you the most like performing stocks and the worst performing stock on those industries we just discussed up there. By the way, any of those industries you see on the right, you can click on it if you are on Bloomberg, and they're gonna give you every stock in there, and you can see whether your stock belongs to one of the like improving industry or lagging or weakening. Go to the, in here, it's giving you, I'm just giving you like an insight on how technical analysis, because an investor used it, for example, somebody who is very savvy in programming, which is the most thing people use right now, specifically like the people who have like a nice fancy computers that can run a very speedy program. You can generate your own program. You can create your own, for example, investing strategy based on a specific technical analysis. Bloomberg has recorded at least 103 technical strategies. In here, in the first screen, it's really giving you no more than 25, because there are 25 analysts that decided to put their method or their strategy in use. So, and they put them in the backtesting. Why this screen is important for somebody who's doing research, or even for somebody who's just investing, is that if you create, you come up, let's suppose you program this new technique, which is yours, and you want to compare it to some of this technique to see which one of these strategies is closer to your strategy. In fact, if you're doing a PhD, you have to compare your stuff to something that is already established, just to prove how important, or how, for example, convenient or prolific your strategy is working. So that's why you need this backtesting, just not only to test your method, but to compare it to the established methods already. The other three screens are just three, what you call a very popular strategies used nowadays by most people around the globe. The first one, which is the averages, the bar chart based on the averages, the 50, the 200, and the 60. In fact, there it's mentioned the 30s and 60s and 100. You can change them on anything. That is you based your analysis on how the movement of the price of the stock is crossing through those averages. If it's crossing on the upward, you are having a very nice investment, and that is going to become bullish, and you will make a decent amount of money. If it's crossing the reverse way, it's coming from up and crossing those averages down, then you are having a bearish stock, which means it's going to continue losing momentum. On the second one on the left, it is what you call Fibonacci retracement. I don't know if some of you are familiar with Fibonacci. It's all over the place. It can be used for almost any field, even in medical analysis. This field is very well used in mathematics, in physics, in almost every scientific field. And it is used here for retracement. Computers use it when one of the companies start hitting on the up or on the down, just like the averages, those lines. So then it's gonna give you when it's heading, the price stock is heading. And the third one is based on trading signals. That is based, probably some people created this method by basically using a different other instrument technique and combine them and come up with this method. You can see, go back, Audrey. This you can see the green signs or squares, which is each time it hits that, it is telling you it's a signal to buy. And when it's hitting on the red spot, it's telling you to sell and get out. Go to the next, Audrey. On this one is very interesting thing that is, as I say, some of this function I was picking because there is no time in the world that we can spend and analyze all the Bloomberg functions. I just picked some that are interesting or used in the business school, and this is one of them. And why I picked Boeing? I picked Boeing because of the events that happened on March, I think, 13, 2019. But anyway, in here you can see this is the current supply chain of Boeing. It has 399 suppliers. It has 288 customers. And if you see on the right side top, you see United States Army is the #1 customer with 51% of the Boeing revenue. And you can see other countries. And by the way, there it mentioned only few institution or companies. But if you hit the arrow underneath it all the way on the right, you can come up with all the other companies or countries, or you can just click on a table and it's going to give you the list of all these companies. And you can see the competitors. In here, what I did is that how to go back. I want, because this today is the day this thing is generated, I think is February the 3rd, but I decided to go back to the day that event happened, that when Max 37 was grounded, when there were two accidents, very serious accident that killed more than 300 people. So the government decided to ground that specific aircraft, which is Max 337. In fact, in there, if I moved my cursor all the way to that section, there the company lost 20% of its value on that specific day when it was announced it was grounded. And then I took my cursor, which was, you can bring your cursor to anywhere in the history of the company and click on it, you're gonna see the news on that specific day. So I brought the cursor all the way on the red section, you can see on the circle there, it is the day that event happened, and there it is mentioned that Boeing Max planes were grounded. And so on that specific day when the news came up, there were 20% loss of the value of the company. Underneath it is to analyze the companies or the suppliers and the customers that are affected that day. And I even went deeper here by filtering specifically aircraft and parts. So which means these are the most critical people or companies that are affected by what happened to Boeing by grounding those airplanes. So in there, you remember we had earlier 399 companies. Now we ended up with 88 suppliers and only 13 customers that are affected deeply by what happened to Boeing. So I didn't have time to go in depth analysis to analyze the financial of this company, but I can promise you many of these companies listed here have lost more value than Boeing itself. As they say, one of these big companies sneezes, these small suppliers and customers, they cut cold. Go to the next one, Audrey. In here, now we move to a very, very interesting function that is trending right now, specifically all over the world. It's because of a green effect or environment, the politically correct thing because of policies, equal like payment, human rights issues, also, for example, due to the economic, to the chemical effect on the environment, like if somebody having some waste in their chemistry, like products, stuff like that. So in this case, what I did, I analyzed the companies that have 60% of women workforce and 40% of the managers are women. So in here, so to just look for this specific product. Also, I need to mention this because this have to be what you call a disclosure in the annual reports or the quarterly report of the company. The companies do not like to produce this information because at this moment they are really like not following properly the Fed when they are supposed to produce all these numbers. And most of these companies do not have nice scores. So I had to go down all the way to 40% management to find a single company in Missouri that is part of this group. So I start going down until 40, and we ended up with Centene, as you can see here, Centene in the lower screen. And by the way, the total companies of 60% 40 is no more than 13 companies, or the whole thing among 1.5 or close to 1.5 million public companies. We ended up only with 13 companies. Anyway, all those companies are listed underneath it. With Centene is telling you that you will have 75% of women workforce and 43% of women in the management of the company. And I generally use this information for specifically for minorities or women looking for a job. If you have like 3 or 4 companies to choose from, I think it's a good idea to look at these numbers so to see whether you have equal right to get a better job, better pay if you're working for a company that has a better score in ESG. Unfortunately, if we dig deeper in this company, you can also see that in the environmental area, they are not doing all that great with in history or in the with their peers. If you look at the top circle in red, and the governmental part of its score is also not great. In fact, it's getting worse. The only two sections there in that company that looks at least decent is the increase of women like workforce and the women in the management. But if you look at all the other numbers, they do not look all that rosy. And the lower screen, it's giving you all those companies or the comparison to the peers or the industry itself where it is located, and it's not doing as well as the industry itself, in fact. We're gonna dig even deeper in this thing. It can get another, we can go to the next screen, Audrey. In this screen, if you do like financial analysis, you're gonna get even deeper analysis, different, all the numbers possible for somebody who's doing research, in-depth analysis or producing a model and you wanna compare your numbers, stuff like that. In here, you can see in the financial analysis, not only you have the financial statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow, but you also have the ESG. If you click on the ESG, you get all the parameters involved in the ESG. And on the lower screen, by looking at the social, you can see the social score, you can see the environment, but we're looking at the social here, which mentioned women in the workforce and in the management. Unfortunately, if you compare 2018 to 2019, the number seems to going lower. And that is not a good sign because in the management, it went from 53% to 43%. So that is not good. Hopefully, Centene will improve their score and put more women in their management since they already have 75% of the workforce in the women in the workforce. Go to the next screen. In here, this is a new index created by volunteering information by like 464 major companies around the globe that decided voluntarily to give all the data that relates to gender equal pay or gender equal, it's called gender equal index, that they want to mention, make sure that they have equal pay for women and men, no matter which job they have or title. And that's what this is done. And here I selected only financial part of it. And you can maybe recognize a few of those companies, Goldman Sachs, like Deutsche Bank, First Bank, Fifth Third Bank. So, and you cannot scroll here, but if you scroll, you'll see all the companies listed. And if you click on the company, they're gonna give you how many of the women are located in the upper echelon of the payment, if it compare favorably with men versus the other echelons, like the lower part of the pay and the middle section of the pay. So they're going to give you all the numbers, how much women and men are getting paid at the same title, everything, and how comparable they are. Go to the next level. In here now, we're going to analyze countries. In the countries, you can analyze any country you want to get some statistical economical indicators or financial information. And you can also get the risk if you invest in this country. And you can see also the profile if you're traveling, everything to see which cities, everything, all kind of information or the maps or whatever you want. In here, we just included the economic indicators. You can recognize few of them as a GDP, CPI, and employment. You can also see the economical calendar when they come up. You can see the economical news. On the lower section, you follow the same thing based on the financials. You can see the S&P movement, which gives you the economy, the health of the economy, just by looking at the S&P 500. You can also look at the yield curve, which is based on the interest rate or the federal interest rates. And underneath it, you can see the news. On this one, go ahead. In this one, it is the trading flow based on different partners. You can select any country you want around the globe. In here, we want to analyze United States. We analyze the United States partners based on exporters and importers. In here, the primary partner of United States based on the total export and import on the first screen is Mexico. But if you look in depth, like now look specifically to exporters and importers, we're gonna find on the lower section, you will see that Canada is the best partner for United States, export much more to Canada than any other country. And it imports, strangely, that I know many politicians trying to bring these numbers down, are China is the number one exporter. China export more to the United States than any other country. And if you look back, you go back to the first screen, you look, there are teeny arrows inside the rectangulars or the square, wherever they are. If those arrows are pointing up, which means there is some form of deficit, that country imports more than they export. If the arrow the arrow points in, which means that country export more than they import, which means they have a surplus of revenue. And you can see clearly that China and Germany are probably some of the best countries that benefit from that area. Go to the next, Audrey. In here, we're gonna analyze, we're gonna look at COVID-19. We selected like around 5 regions. We looked at the whole globe. We looked at European Union. We looked at United States. We looked at the United Kingdom, and we looked at also the Asian. So, and this, if you look at the total on the right side, you'll see the total cases on the first screen on top side. I mean, on the second side, second screen on the top side. The total, for example, unfortunate cases, and on the right side is the net change on a daily change. In fact, some of them you can see clearly some of the waves, and some of them they just have one single wave. But you can see the United States is just behind the world and Europe Union, the United States numbers in, unfortunately, on cases and death. So on the middle section, you can see the number of deaths on all these countries I select. You can select any country or any region in the world, and you can get this data on a daily basis, and you can get the total. On the lower side of the thing, you get what you call that the heat map, or we can call it, here we call it Bloomberg map, because you can generate this map not only for COVID, you can generate it for snow, for earthquake, for hurricanes, for whatever thing you're looking for. But in here, we just used it for the vaccine. So we use the vaccine, and you can actually get the number of cases, the number of vaccines for, like, for example, Moderna or Pfizer or any other vaccine you want. And you can see there in Missouri, it gives you the number of cases, the number of deaths, and the number of vaccine improvement within 14 days. Go to the next level, Audrey. In here, we picked the effect of COVID, on this, the effect on COVID on a bunch of companies. Some of them benefited from the, what you call that, staying at home, and some of them really have paid the price. So some of them are getting fortunate from the misery of others. So if you can see, like Zoom, Teledac, and Amazon are doing very well. In fact, you can look at the annual numbers on the right. They are all nicely green, going up. And if you look at Royal Caribbean, Delta Airline, and even McDonald's is not faring very well, are not doing that great, and because of the lockdown. On the lower section, that section is critical here. You can see at the bottom line, green, it's the number of vaccine. As the number of vaccine in United States improves, well, you can do similar graph for any other country, but here I just picked United States. As the number of vaccines improve, you can see, for example, the economy is improving based on the appreciation of the S&P 500 and the increase of for example, the interest rate, the 10-year yield is going up because they think it's going to pick up some form of inflation. So then that interest is going up. And contradictorily, that you can see the gold, which is a defensive instrument, is going down because the economy is improving. So people think we do not need to keep gold because the economy is going to get better. So it's better to invest in more like what you call speculative elements, and especially like the stock market. And that's why that is come up, and it's like the economy is going up, so the stock market going up and the gold going down. Go to the next screen. Audrey?
Okay, so thank you, Madjid. So you can actually do job searches in Bloomberg. You can build your resume in Bloomberg. You can contact recruiters in Bloomberg. You can see jobs that have been posted. And in the lower screen, you can see when they were posted, what kind of job it is, and where it's located. You'll see financial hiring news and recruiters in the area, et cetera. So this can also be used for job searching. You can also use Bloomberg to locate Washington University alumni who have access to Bloomberg at their work locations. So this is the top screen here shows Washington University alumni. There's 4,091. It tells you their first name, last name, the company they work for, their title, and where they're located. It also lets you know whether they're on Bloomberg right now with a green dot or a red dot. And they also have email. They can also take email from you through Bloomberg. The second screen shows a filter where we took the number of people and we found out how many are in St. Louis. There's 81 of those 4,091. And then further, we did a filter on how many people are in finance in St. Louis from who graduated from WashU, and there were 17. So this is very helpful when you're job searching or when you're trying to make contacts or networking with fellow alumni. Believe it or not, you can also look at flight information and even dining information in Bloomberg. So the top screen shows you nonstop flights. There's zero stops. They're nonstop flights from Chicago, O'Hare, or Midway to St. Louis, the duration of the flight, the airline, etc. And then you can do a search. Let's say you were going to come to St. Louis for Valentine's Day weekend. So here's the flight schedule. And you can also get a list of restaurants. It tells you there's reviews, tells you the kind of cuisine, the price, etc. So you can see Bloomberg has multi-functions. Also, you can do a search on the richest people in the world or in your neck of the woods. So you can look by category, country, or region. You can look by gender, age, or source, whether the wealth was inherited or self-made. You can also look by industry. So that's also very interesting. Okay, one thing we wanted to mention is Bloomberg has a market concept certification. It's an 8-hour self-directed e-learning course. It's interactive. There's 3 sections, and it's available to WashU business students at no charge. And what we recommend is that, to go for this certification, it's really important because you can add it to your resume and your LinkedIn profile, helps you prep for interviews. And students who are able to operate a Bloomberg terminal are stronger candidates in today's market. I can tell you that I've worked for publicly held firms. They have a Bloomberg terminal set off in a corner. Nobody knows how to use it, but maybe 1 or 2 people. And if you know how to use it, you're going to be gold in that company. Does anyone have any questions? Well, I take it that you don't. I appreciate your attendance today. If you do, please contact Madjid at at another time after this presentation. And like we said, Bloomberg is an ocean of information. So there's much to be learned from it, and it has a tremendous amount of capacity for data. So in the theme of today, it's all about the data. So thank you very much for your attention and for joining our presentation today.